Hi folks, this is Karim Raouf from IT Visualizer channel. Today we will continue our Lambda transformers. This is the video number 40. In the previous 4 videos we have been discussing installation and configuration of the WSUS, which is an abbreviation of Windows Server Update Services. We have learned how to install the WSUS, what is the WSUS, what is the best practice. As we said before, we have discussed in the previous videos what is the WSUS, how we can configure it, what is the best practice and best configuration for the WSUS role, and how we can migrate the WSUS database from using a Windows internal database to a SQL database 2019. And we have said why we are doing this process or this operation, because there is some benefits for the WSUS for using a database type of SQL over using WSUS database type which is Windows Internal Database. This is a database type called Windows Internal Database. There is some advantages on using WSUS SQL database on using Windows Internal Database. We have tested this before in the previous videos, and how we can migrate the WSUS from using a Windows Internal Database type to a SQL database type. We have done this in the previous video. And in this video we will see also some best practices on how to maintain the WSUS database. This is some best practice recommended by Microsoft. This is the PDF from the Microsoft website. This is the steps for WSUS maintenance. First of all, we have to back up the database, and second is to create custom indexes, re-index and decline superseded updates, run WSUS cleanup wizard, and troubleshooting and automating WSUS maintenance. We will discuss all of these 7 steps step by step. Okay, the first thing is to back up the WSUS database. Okay, as I said before, one of the role or the best one of the main functions of an IT personnel or IT manager or IT department is to back up all of our databases. Okay, so the first thing to make sure that we have a backup of the WSUS database. Okay, so if anything happens for the WSUS database, we can retrieve it from our backup. So let's begin our video. So this is a best practice. As I said before, Microsoft recommends us to how to maintain the WSUS. This is some steps recommended by Microsoft. I will put this PDF in the transformers folder, which I will upload it on my Google Drive and save it as a link. Okay, a Google Drive link. I will put it in the description under the video in my YouTube channel. Okay, so here we will power on the domain controller. Okay, which is our first domain controller, which contains or which have the WSUS role installed on it. Also, if you need to know more about the WSUS best practices or how to install it and all we have done concerning WSUS, please refer to my 4 previous videos. Previous videos. Okay. So here we will make a new folder in the F drive, and we'll name it WSUS SQL backup. Okay, backup or WSUS backup. Here in this folder we will back up our WSUS database. How we can do this? We will open the Management Studio, SQL Management Studio. As I said before, this is a graphical interface that facilitates just a minute, let's go one click further. The SQL Management Studio is a graphical interface that we can use, or a graphical tool graphical interface tool that we can use to access the SQL database. Okay, this is much easier to as a tool to access the database, because especially the SQL database, because when we were using the WSUS with a Windows internal database, the only way that we can access this Windows internal database is to use SQL CMD. We have to use a command prompt, which it's like a black screen, and we have to use commands to deal with the database. But in the SQL we only have we have much easier way to communicate with the SQL database through the SQL Management Studio. Okay, so we will open the SQL Management Studio and create our first SQL the first SQL database backup job, which will be to backup our WSUS database. Now our database, it is SQL database, so we'll create a job to tell or we create a job that will back up our WSUS SQL database. So here we will connect. So now we will open or expand the database, or expand the SQL Server database. And then we will go to Management, and then to Maintenance Plans. Okay, and then we will right click, and then new maintenance plan wizard. This will be easier to create a job, create a backup job actually. So here we will tell him next. Okay, this wizard, it says in brief that this maintenance plan wizard, it helps you to create a maintenance plan. What is a maintenance plan? Maintenance plan, what it does, there is 4 things to be done through the maintenance plan. Is to check database integrity, to check if the database is working properly, if there is no errors in the database, and to perform an index. As I said before, it's something like defragment for the hard disk in the Windows. This is something done to increase the performance of the SQL database and make it much more faster and easier to access. Okay, this is for the index maintenance. Update database statistics, this to update the database statistics. I don't know actually what this means. And the last thing in the maintenance is to perform database backup. This is the one that we will set up now. We will create a maintenance plan that back up our WSUS SQL database. Next, and then we will name the job. Okay, we name it WSUS backup. So here there is something to note here, how this backup job will be done, or who is responsible for running this backup job. For running this backup job, there is a Windows service called SQL Server Agent Service. Okay, this is a Windows service, okay, which will be responsible for running the WSUS backup. As I said before, when we set up the SQL 2019 database, we have defined a an account, okay, an Active Directory, and before set up the SQL 2019, we have created an Active Directory account, and we have named it SQL Service Active Directory account, and this account is responsible for running all of the SQL Server 2019 services, okay, including the backup jobs of the SQL database, okay. So we will use this SQL or Active Directory account to backup our WSUS database. This will not be done directly, because the Active Directory SQL Active Directory account will not run the SQL database directly. It will run it through a service in the Windows which is called SQL Server Agent Service Account. Let's explain it in simple steps. The SQL 2019 server, to run the SQL Server 2019 properly, there is some services that should be run in the Windows, okay. We have discussed before that there is about 9 services that should be running in the Windows, so the SQL Server 2019 or the SQL Server database should run properly. One of them is called SQL Server Agent Service, okay. This is the service that will be responsible for taking backup of the WSUS database, okay. So who will be responsible for running these services? It is our SQL Active Directory account. Please refer to my previous videos to know more, but in short, okay, to make a SQL or to backup the WSUS SQL database, we will run it using the Windows service called SQL Server Agent Service, and the account that will be responsible for running this service, so this service can take a backup of the WSUS SQL database, the SQL Active Directory account that we have created when we first installed the WSUS server role on the domain controller, okay. So just to know that, okay, and take a note. So here we have already defined a name for the backup job, and then we have defined the service that will be responsible for running or taking backup. Now we will define a schedule. We will run this backup job every day at 12 after midnight, okay, every day, okay. This is schedule type is reoccurring. Let's discuss it in brief. Here is the name of the backup job. Schedule type reoccurring, it means it will be done or it will be repeated every day. Reoccurring means repeated, okay, or it is repeated every day. Reoccurring, what this reoccurring mean? It means it is repeated. It will be repeated every day, okay. When we will take this backup, it will be taken at I will make it at 3 a.m. okay, 3 in the morning, okay. And actually you need to be very careful when you run or when you set up the time that the backup will be taken, okay. As we will see further in the video, that we will create another job that will make reindex, and reindex for the database, and I have said before what reindex means. So you need to make sure that the backup is taken before the reindex job, okay. And for example, the WSUS syncing time, what I mean by this, there is a time that the WSUS will go and check the Microsoft website and see if there is any new updates for Windows 10, for example, or Windows 2019. So you need to make sure that the WSUS syncing time, okay, will be on a different time than the WSUS backup database time, and also the reindex of the database is also in another different time. So if you can make it by arrange it in numbers, the first, for example, if you need to make the WSUS syncs with the Microsoft website to see if there is any new updates, for example, we'll make it at 12 after midnight, and then we will take the backup job. After that, maybe it will be at 3 a.m. and then the reindex, for example, will make it at 5 a.m. So the first is the WSUS sync, and then the WSUS backup database, and then the reindex job. Okay, this is by let's see, say this is by steps. What is the first thing to do, what is the second thing to do, and what is the third thing to do. Okay, okay, so now we have scheduled our job. Okay, we have gave a name. Here we will choose what we want to do. Here we will tell him to backup, full backup. Okay, here is a different thing. There is something called backup database full, and backup database differential, and backup database transaction log. Okay, backup full, it will take a full backup of the database every day. For example, if there is any change, for example, if your WSUS has, for example, as I said before, the WSUS will go and check the website of Microsoft and see if there is any new updates available. For example, if this syncing it didn't find any new updates, so we will take a full backup of the database. Okay, we'll take a full backup of the database even though there is no change, or there is nothing new. Okay, but what if the next day there is some new updates? It will take a full backup of the database. Okay, let's put it in other words. Full backup means that it will take a backup of the database if there is changes or there is no changes in the database. Okay, for example, if in this database there is new files added, it will take a backup of the database as a whole. Okay, if there is no files added, it will also take a backup. So it doesn't let's say it doesn't matter if there is a change or no change in the database. Okay, for example, I can put it in another way. Let's see this. For example, if you are taking a backup of this mp3 folder, okay, and then we will make, for example, so let's make it here. For example, if you have a folder named mp3 and there is another folder or subfolder called new folder, okay, the full backup means that it will take mp3, okay, as a whole, and all what is under the folder named mp3. So it will take also a backup of the new folder. Okay, this is the full database backup. But what about something called differential, okay, or differential backup? Okay, let's put another folder here. For example, yesterday the mp3 folder contains only a new folder, okay, and we have taken a full backup of this folder. Next day we have added another folder called new folder. Okay, the differential backup means that it will only take backup of the newly added folder. It will not take a backup of new folder. Okay, it will only take what was added recently, or the recent change in the folder. Okay, so yesterday we have take a backup of the new folder, which is database full backup, and then the next day we have made another job called backup differential. In this backup differential, it will take a backup only of the second folder. It will ignore the first folder. Okay, so this is the difference between a full backup and the differential backup. For example, full backup, it will takes a full backup of the folder if there is a change or no change in the folder. Okay, for example, if you have added this folder, okay, and you tell him to take a full backup, he will take backup of both folders, okay, the old one and the new one. But in differential, it will take only the new one. Okay, so this is the difference between differential and full backup. Okay, so also here is another thing, it's called transaction log. In every database there is something called log. In this log, the database records everything's happens in the database. For example, if the database you have make any jobs on it, the database had made some changes in the database, there is errors in the database, all of this is recorded in a log called transaction log. So we have also a job. We can back up the database logs only, not the database itself, but the logs for the database. What these logs contain, it's called first transaction logs. In these transaction logs, everything happens to the database, from deleting a database, adding a database, deleting records, deleting tables. All of this is recorded in something called transaction log. Also, we can make a backup job to back up that transaction logs. Actually, I have forgotten to make a job to back up the database logs. We will do this also because I have already forgot to do this. So when you are making a backup, please back up the database itself and the transaction logs. This is very important to know. If there is any errors or changes happen to the database, you need to have a backup of the logs of the database. So we will make a full backup. Okay, and then next. And then here we will choose what database we need to back up. Here we will choose the name of the database of the WSUS. It's called SUSDB. Okay, so here, but actually there is a problem here because I am not working on full screen mode. So here actually there is a problem in the display, so we'll get a little bit further. So sorry. First of all, we need to check the database. Here is the database. It's called SUSDB. This is the database that we will create a backup job to create a job in the SQL Management Studio to back up this database. Okay. Here also we can make the backup job from right-click the database and tell him to no, I think I will not do it from here. Okay, we will right click again and then maintenance wizard. Okay, and then next, and then we will name it here. We will again repeat the process. Okay, daily, and we'll make it at 3 a.m. and then we name it WSUS backup. Then next, and then we will back up the database as a full backup. We will not use the differential one. Okay, and then full database backup. Next, and then we will choose the database, which will be the SUSDB, and then next. Destination, here we will tell him where to put these backup files. Okay, we will put it in a folder that we have created, which is called WSUS backup, which is in the F drive, and the backup will be, the file extension will be .back. Okay, here we will go to the F, and then we will choose our WSUS backup folder. Okay, and then next, we will see if there is any options we need. Here, for example, you can tell him in the options that, for example, you can, when the, for example, the backups will be for 14 days. Okay, for example, if you take backup for 14 days, it will begin deleting the backup after 14 days. For 10 days, I think this is the option called backup set will expire. Okay, what I mean by expire, it after 14 days you will delete. For example, if you have taken backup for 14 days, then you will begin deleting or rewrite these 14 backups, or delete from them and begin taking another 14 new backups. For example, if you take backup in May, June, July, August, okay, and then in December you have reached the number 14, or you have reached 14 days. Sorry. For example, if you have taken backup in December 1, okay, and then you have reached December 14. When you reach December 14, you will have 14 backups, okay. He will begin deleting from December 1, okay, the first backup, and then he will begin recording another 14 new ones, okay. Here also you can make backup integrity. You need to check if the backup is taken correctly. Continue if there is an error, okay. Encryption of the backup, if you need to encrypt the backup itself. We only need to make a backup job and to put it in a folder that we have created. Only will take a data base full backup, and the destination will leave everything for the default. Here disk, and if you have a tape drive or something, let's go back a little bit. Here you can back up to here if you have a backup to a local hard disk, or you have a tape drive, or you have a tape cartridge, okay, you can back up it to a tape. Okay, this is like a cartridge, as I said before. I have discussed it in a previous video. Some tapes can take up to 400 gigabyte, okay, and more. There is some tapes that can take 6 terabytes. This tape it's like an external hard disk, but it's very similar to the old games cartridge. If you have a Nintendo or something, or you have Sega, they were working with a tape like it, something called cartridge, okay. This cartridge can take up to 6 terabyte. So here we leave everything as is. Next, and then here there is something called a backup job log, okay. This is a log that will be created after the backup job is finished. In this log it says if the job is successful or not. This is a log file that tells us if the job is the backup job of the SQL job, or what is the status of the SQL backup job, if it is successful or not. This will all be written in a text file. Where we'll put it, we will put it in the same folder that we have our SQL database backup taken, in WSUS backup, okay. Okay, and then finish. Here we have here we have something like a summary of what we have done. Here if you need to compress the database, you can do it. The default is not to compress, okay. So if you need to compress the database, you need to check or choose from the checklist and tell him to compress the database, okay. Next, and then finish. So here now we have already created the backup, or the SQL backup job. So now I have created the WSUS SQL database backup. It will run in 3 a.m. in the morning. So now we will try to execute the job and see if it is successful or not. Actually this is done manually, so every time you need to back up the database, you need to go to the SQL Management Studio and run it manually by yourself. in a couple of minutes coming we will see how we can create a task to be run automatically and take a SQL database backup automatically in the time that we have sorry, I was a little bit mistaken. We will run a task and tell him, or we have create a Windows task, or we will create a scheduled task that will run the SQL database backup job in a certain time. We will see this in a moment, don't be in a hurry. Okay, so here we can see that the backup is taken and it's about 585 megabyte. Okay, and this is the text file or the log file that contains the job log. Okay, so here we can say that this is the job, it started at what, and ended at what, and it was successful. So now this is the first thing to do in the Microsoft documentation to Microsoft documentation to maintain the WSUS database. Just a minute, we need to go to the next thing. Okay, the next thing is to create custom index. Okay, this process is optional but recommended. Creating custom index greatly improves performance during subsequent cleanup operations. Okay, let's see, I will show you all what this means. Create a custom index. Okay, it recommends configuring add non-cluster index WSUS option. Okay, creating custom index, this is a process that will be done so we can facilitate the process of the WSUS, sorry, to facilitate the process of the database cleanup operations. Okay, as I said before, the database sometimes get larger and larger, okay, because it contains a lot of things, so it needs regular cleanup process. It's something like cleaning the Windows files. For example, in the Windows, when it is the hard disk is filled, you need to clean up the unnecessary files. For example, if you have temporary internet files, if you have some download files, you need to delete them. So this is the same as the cleanup process for the SQL database. Okay, so from time to time you need to make some cleanup process for the database of the SQL. So the next step in the Microsoft recommendation for WSUS maintenance is to create something called custom index. This custom index will improve the cleanup process for the database. Okay, so this is recommended to do. This is like a SQL script. We will do it so we can improve the performance of the. Just a minute. Okay, so now we'll make the index of the SQL database, sorry, the custom index that will increase or make the process of the database cleanup much easier. So how we do this? We will do this as a SQL script. To make sure before making this to implement this custom index, you need to make sure that you have already backupped your database, and we have done this before, the WSUS database. So now we will right click and then tell him a new query. Here we will implement our SQL script. I said before, this custom index, it is done to increase the efficiency of the database cleanup process. Okay, this is recommended by Microsoft, so you need to run this SQL script. Okay, so it will increase the efficiency of the SQL database cleanup process. Okay, so just a minute. So here we will run the the custom index. I have already taken it as a text file. Here is the custom index. We will copy it. Copy. We put it in the query. We make a new query and then put this command and paste and then execute. Then execute. It will say command completed successfully. So to make sure this SQL script is already implemented, we will run this script another time or for the second time. If it gives us an error, then we are on the right path and it is already implemented. So we run the script for the second time. So here gives us an error. This script or this is custom index should be run once. This script should be run for once. Okay, we don't have to run it every time. It's only run for one time. Okay. So then after that we will run the reindex script. This is done manually. Okay, for one time, and then we will know how this is done automatically. We will create a maintenance plan job and tell it to reindex the database at 5 a.m. Okay, right click and then new query. This is how the reindex is done manually. We will run it automatic. I will show you how this is done automatically. Okay. So here we will take the index sorry and then we will copy and then we will run this query, paste, and then we will execute. Tell him to execute the command. It will take a little bit of time. This is how the reindex is done manually, but we can do this through the maintenance plan wizard. We will tell him to reindex the database automatically at 5 a.m. So here we can see that the reindex is done. Executing successfully. So we will decline the services updates after that, and there is also some SQL script to know how much services updates that we have in our WSUS database. This also is run through a command or SQL script to know our services update. If you want to know what mean by services update, this means that this update depends or cannot be installed until another update is installed. This is simply what services update means. So the third step or the fourth step is to decline services updates. We have 401 services update. We need to make sure that they are not needed anymore. If they are not needed anymore, need to decline them and then delete them. Sure, I need to decline them only, okay? And then in the cleanup process, it will delete through the WSUS cleanup wizard. We will clean this declined services updates. We can decline superseded updates through PowerShell, through PowerShell command, through SQL script. So after declining the superseded updates, we will run the WSUS cleanup wizard. This should be done in a way I will show you all, but it will be done. You have to open the WSUS console, okay, here, and go to the updates and begin declining the updates. This will be done before the WSUS cleanup wizard, okay? So let's stop. So here now we will make the WSUS cleanup wizard. First of all, we will decline some updates, okay? And then here we are declining some updates before going to the WSUS cleanup wizard. So the first step in our Microsoft recommendation is to back up your WSUS database, and then the second thing is to make a custom index to facilitate the cleanup process for the SQL database, and then to make a re-index. Okay, we have done the SQL re-index. This is done. The custom index is done for once, and the re-index is done for once manually. We know this how this is done through automatically through the maintenance plan wizard. And then after that we decline our services update. We are doing this now. We have known from the from the SQL Management Studio how much services updates we have. We have 401. So after knowing the number, we got into the WSUS console and begin declining the services updates. And after knowing our services updates and declining them, we will go and make a cleanup for the WSUS. So here we will run the server cleanup wizard. Here we can see that there is some things called unused updates. This is the updates that have not been approved for 30 days. You hadn't approved these updates to be installed for 30 days, so he will delete them. Computers not contacting the server, for example, if there is some computers was not able to communicate with the server for 30 days, as I said before, the workstations and server are frequently communicating with the WSUS server to know if there is any new updates. Okay, so if one of them is not communicating with the WSUS for 30 days, it will delete them. And unneeded updates, this is the updates that you have declined, okay, or is not needed anymore. Unused updates, this is updates that are not approved for 30 days. As for unneeded updates, these are the updates that you have declined already and you don't need them anymore. Expired updates are declined updates as well, like the unneeded updates, but they are expired also, so there is newer updates that replace them. This is the expired updates. Services updates, we have known or what means by services updates, so choose which one of them you need to clean up and check it. Okay, and if you want to know more, please refer to the Google and see, but this is basically what does this mean. Unused updates, unapproved updates for 30 days, computers is contacting the server, we have explain this. Unneeded updates, the updates that are not needed, okay, by computers and you have declined them. Okay, and this declined updates that aren't approved, okay, and had been expired. I don't know the difference, but it seems they are the same, except that it also in the expired updates it concludes the expired updates that are not new, or that some expired updates are replaced by newer ones. Okay, so services updates, this is our updates that will not be uninstalled until other updates should be installed. So this is also if you don't approve them for 30 days, the client updates had not been approved for 30 days. Okay, I don't know this also, but we have discussed what services updates mean, so we will conclude this. The client updates that had not been approved, this is our services updates, sorry, these are the services updates that are declined and not approved for 30 days. Okay, the same as declined here, the same as unneeded, all of them are the same. So your services updates will not be deleted unless you check this box, especially the one that have declined. Okay, so we will continue. We don't have any free space. So I will run the server cleanup again. Okay, so now we have only unused updates. 7 are deleted. So now I think this process is already finished. Can go there. Okay, so we have finished already. Now we can go back. Now we have finished the process of the cleanup, the WSUS cleanup wizard. We have passed this 5th step. So now we will make the job for re-indexing and reorganize index and check integrity, which in one word we will make a re-index. I have shown you how to make the re-index manually. We will do a re-index automatically through the maintenance plan wizard. I will show you how this is done. So we can go a little bit further. So just a minute. No, we can pass all of this. Here we will, just a minute. Here we'll make a right click and then maintenance plan wizard and then next, and then we will make a WSUS re-index. We name it a WSUS re-index job. Okay. And then we will choose it to be done daily. Okay, and then we will do it at 5 AM. Okay, as I said before, the WSUS backup will be taken on 3 AM. The re-index should be done after the backup, which will be done 5 AM, and the WSUS syncing with the Microsoft website. This is the time that the WSUS will check with the Microsoft website to see if there is any new updates for your workstations and servers. So here we will check, just a minute. So in order, you should have your jobs created as follows. First of all, you need to make your WSUS time to check with the Microsoft website to see if is any new update. This is to be done as a first step. So for example, we will make the WSUS check with the Microsoft website to see if there is any updates for Windows 10 and Windows Server 2019 at 12 midnight. and then we will run the WSUS SQL backup job at 3 a.m. and then we will run the reindex after the backup job is finished on 5 a.m. So this should be done specifically in this order, because the reindex should not be done before the backup of SQL, and also the backup should not be done unless the WSUS had finished downloading the updates. Okay, so this is how this is done. So here we will choose the rebuild and reorganize, and this is on. You can check database also integrity. This means to check if there is any errors in the database. So I think I will pass all of this because there is some error will appear, so I need to pass all of them. I will do it from the scratch because here will be an error. So we will do it from the beginning. Here we will right click again, just a minute, because there was an error. So here we'll right click and maintenance plan, and then next, and then we will have WSUS reindex. Okay, and then we will make it as daily. Okay, and then we will make it at 5 a.m. Sorry for the previous, I have already passed it quickly because there was an error, so I have created the job from the beginning. So we will make the task to run at 5 a.m. We will check database integrity, reorganize and rebuild, and then next, and then we will tell him every job which database it will check for integrity is the SUSBDB, and then for the reindex which database it will reorganize the reindex, it's SUSB database, and then for the rebuild index also I will choose the database. So all of these steps are to tell him the schedule, and then to tell him which database that the process of the maintenance will be done on it. So the reindex and the reorganize rebuild will be done on SUSDB, and the check for database integrity also will be done on the SUSDB database. So next, and then we tell him to put the log for this job in the WSUS backup. Okay, and then next, and then finish. I think this will be done automatically. So the job is there, and then we have finished it. So here as the last step, we will go to the WSUS and tell him in the options to resync schedule to be at 12 a.m. As I said before, this is the time that will the WSUS check with the Microsoft update website to see if there is any updates for your workstations, if there is updates for Windows 10 and Windows Server 2019. This will be the first step in our WSUS maintenance plan. You need to take it the first step, which will be at 12 a.m. WSUS backup will be at 3 a.m. reindex will be at 5 p.m. Okay, so all of this will be done. We'll go there and schedule and synchronize automatically. Will be at 12 a.m. done once a day, the check. And then this concludes for our video today. At the next video we will see how we can use the Excel sheet to connect to the WSUS database, so we can get a lot of reports through the Excel, using the Excel, and make it more efficient than more informative and efficient than the normal WSUS reports. Okay, so let's go there. So hope this video was informative of you. I would like you all to thank you for viewing. Thank you so much.